Welcome to the GPK Boys. I'm Nick Atef.
And I'm Ryan Kazera. Today we have a couple special guests with us. We've got Jeff Rockholt and Benjamin Siegler. And essentially what we're going to do is we're going to more or less have a roundtable on the current state of Sapphire. We're going to talk a little bit about pricing trends. Ben especially has put together a really cool data worksheet that really shows some of the cards that have been pulled so far. So without further ado, we're going to get into it.
So Ben, first question, can you give us like a broad view on this project?
Sure. Yeah, this actually all started after buying a few SPK eBay auctions to participate in breaks and not being able to leave the screen for 2.5 hours, like not even able to look away because you might miss your card or going to the bathroom. So I started tracking it and building a more optimized tracker because as being new to GPK after being out for 30 years, I didn't realize how complicated it could be with same names and same images. So I built a spreadsheet and I just started tracking everything and giving other people the link so that they could go to the bathroom or walk away or even just join late and see what happened. It started to evolve from that, where I decided that the data needed to be collected on a global level so we could see what hits were in last week or the week before or overall for all of this. So that's kind of how it started.
You got started from watching some of the breaks and not wanting to miss some of the things yourself. So are you like a super numbers guy?
No, I'm into computers and I know Google Sheets a little bit. I know it a lot more now, I can tell you that. But I started with these basic sheets. They're all individual. They weren't even linked together. And I just started growing from there to see what was happening. And honestly, in the beginning, it was to help people so that they could sit back and relax, because it is, I'm not sure if you've seen Stephen Kirk, but those cards come darn fast. I mean, you couldn't look away for a second and know what's going on. And then you're just waiting until your package comes, and then maybe you got what you should have gotten. You don't know.
Ben, let me ask you this. So obviously you're pulling all this data. You guys are actually doing all the homework and going through and watching the breaks and everything else. Is there anywhere other than from the breaks that you're pulling this data? Are you going to eBay and looking at what's listed there, or what are you using for sources?
So I've segmented out the data. We've got just pure break data, and it got complicated because people wanted to know if I do a personal break, would that box be included? And the basics are, if a box is broken on video, where we can see all the packs open up, even if they're all for yourself, we'll document it and you will be a breaker for yourself. That's it. Very basic right there. Just to make sure that the wrapping wasn't on it, just because we want to make sure it's legitimate. So we will put that in there and you'll become one of the breakers that we look at the stats on. So that's pretty much the basics of what we qualify someone to be in this data. But we also have other systems where we collect data from other great sources. We import the almanac values into our system so that we can show you that box that was broken 5 minutes ago, the value of every card added together. Was that a good box or not? We also work with another guy who collects data from eBay, and we also import that into our master sheet that shows you all sorts of data. So we have lots of different segmented sheets that give you some really cool trends and reports. But really what we are focused on is tracking Sapphire boxes as they're opening, the cards in order. We have 51,000 of those cards in order right now. So we can see some alarming data.
Hold on. So have you literally watched 51,000 cards on screen and just kept ticking off? You're like, Bug Betty, oh my God, there's a whatever. Is that what you're doing?
So yes, it's either me or Mike Graven or some of the other trackers that have helped out over time. And it's a very easy process. You just write the actual card number down. So if it was Atom Bomb, you would put in the cell 8A, and then you go to the next cell. And if it's a parallel number, there's a shorthand. It's very easy to understand so that everything is unique and understandable. But it's very basic to do. Anybody could track. But yes, we've seen 1,600 boxes open or 1,500 boxes open, countless hours. And, I have to thank Mike. Mike went back in time and looked at old videos and tracked them, because I started this really March, April, but we had a lot of really good breaks in February where, the Nasty Nick Podbaraja came out and a lot of things. We definitely wanted to capture that data. So he went back and did everything, like literally everything we have a video of ever, Mike recorded.
Can I go out on a limb and say this is like the sexiest, nerdiest shit out there? Like, so Ben, you've found some like a couple of tidbits of really like tasty findings, let's call it. Can you share some of them with us?
Sure. So the first thing that I think is one of the most important stats is not to look so much at the parallels, but the base cards, because there's a lot of base cards we're getting out of this 10%, but we're not really getting a big chunk of parallels. And what we've noticed, which was really odd, is that there are 34 base cards that come out 2 times more than any of the other 132 cards. So there's a huge gap. So if we list like the 500 Nasty Nicks that have come out, and we go down the list and sort in order, you're going to see there's like an enormous gap. So there's no way that you can account for that gap of being just luck. It's definitely a trend. And 34 is exactly 1/5 of a set. I'm not sure what you want to do with that number, but it can kind of maybe point you in some direction of how the sheets are laid out or how they collate or whatever. And I'm waiting for the 35th card to start doubling, because I think that will be somewhere else at that point. But those are just trends. I don't really know the answer to that.
Jeff, any thoughts on seeing like Topps releasing more of one and less of another?
It's fascinating. I love Ben's, the spreadsheet and the information the guys have put together, because I've kind of, been a fan of the numbers, kind of the business, and being able to figure out things. And the data is awesome that they've been able to do. And I can't imagine the man hours that everyone has spent trying to put it together, which is fantastic. As far as the base cards go, it's very interesting, right? I mean, the problem with Topps is, and collectors probably know this who have been around a while, is they may be the least transparent company out there. They don't talk about how the sausage is made, so to speak, right? They don't like to talk about numbers or how the process works or how they collate products. And I think a lot of it has to do with anti-competitiveness with other companies. They don't want to reveal any secrets, and also probably opening themselves up to liability and lawsuits from, if too many information's there, if they've missed stuff, right? So it's probably smarter for them not to talk. So it's up to us to try to figure stuff out. And, I don't know that this has ever been done before, right? I don't know if has anyone ever done a study like this before? Sapphire is almost the perfect storm of a set to do this with, because you can't do this with a retail set and try to figure something out, because there's just too much of it. And there's also not enough video evidence done of breaks or anything like that. You wouldn't be able to get a large enough sample size. So you'd have to have a small enough set, which is still widely released, and short printed up, and have the demand that like a Sapphire does in order to get this data. So it's absolutely fascinating. With the base cards, like Ben had mentioned, who knows? Maybe the sheets are laid out. They doubled up some base cards on it. Topps in the past on other brands will label cards as double printed or short printed. Usually short printed, I would say. They would label stuff with kind of as a selling point, so to speak. But who knows, really? It's an interesting that it's only 34 cards that are double printed. Where why is that?
Yeah, it's definitely fascinating. Hey, Ben, the thing I was wondering about, and being a victim myself of a 0-hit box, obviously every one of these boxes are supposed to have 2 hits out of them. We're finding more and more often that that's not always the case. Have you guys actually, it's going to be kind of a 2-part question. Have you guys actually done a breakdown of how many hits are coming out of the box? Obviously, probably 2 hits are the most common. I guess what I want to know for myself, above and beyond, if you guys have done the data and the study on that, what's more common, a 0-hit box or a 4-hit box? And then above and beyond that, what's the most hits you've seen out of a box?
And, we didn't originally capture any of this data, but we did. So we had all the cards in order. So we just had to make some really sneaky formulas to get it. And what I first want to say, and I want everyone to get this, if you take all the parallels from all the boxes, we're at 2 per box, like right there. So there's like no evidence that there's less or more so far. So I just want that to be very clear, because I know a lot of people are thinking there's stacks of parallels back at Tops. Well, they did print 2 on the box. I mean, they printed it on the box, so they meant it. And for whatever reason, we're getting 0 to 4 hits. We've never had a 5-hit box, but we have about 2% are 0-hit boxes and 2.5% are 4-hit boxes. Then we have about 16 to 17% 1-hit boxes and 15 to 16% 3-hit boxes. So and then we have about 62% are actually 2-hit boxes. So that's where we are, but it all evens out. But yeah, so you're more likely to get a 4-hit box than a no-hit box, and you are more likely to get a 1-hit box than a 3-hit box for sure.
Jeff, can I pass this back over to you? This goes back to, like, what is Topps doing? They're taking our money, but they're not promising us anything that's written on the box.
No, you're right. And this is, you can see this throughout time with Topps. For years, we've gone back 2014, 2015, collector boxes. Collector boxes have always been guaranteed a hit on the retail side. Well, we've always had boxes that don't have hits in them. And, Topps does have a process on their website for, a missing hit process if you don't get what's promised. And with GPK, Topps doesn't promise a lot. They promise hits in collector boxes, but with Sapphire boxes, it's written on the box, 2 hits inside the box. So to me, that's written as a promise. And I know some people have filled out the missing hit form, and some people have gotten some things in the mail. I think a lot of people haven't gotten things. If there's 30% of boxes that are wrong, you figure, what was it, 15 plus 2, so 17%, 18% of boxes are less than 2 hits. That's a lot of missing hits. If Topps got forms for all that, there's no way they held that many cards back for replacements. So this is, it's surprising this day and age that Topps or their vendors can't get collation correct when they want stuff. I'm sure it's a difficult process, but you would think they would be able to do what's promised.
Guys, let's shift gears a little bit here. Obviously, we're talking about the numbers and the data on Sapphire as a whole and what's out there and what we can look for. Let's shift it over to pricing. Where do you guys, both of you guys, see pricing right now as opposed to before, and where do you think that will go into the future?
I could chime in real quick. I started in February, and I've been watching eBay and buying golds at $100 a card, whatever the character is, or oranges at 75. And I would say that going into April, before April, right in that month, we would see very steady pricing at $30 a teal and 50, 60 a green and 80 an orange and 125 a gold, like really just everywhere. And then one day, mid-April, everything doubled in value. It was crazy. And orange even more than doubled. Orange went up slightly more than double. So oranges are now 200. Or were then when they doubled. Golds are 250, and they pretty much carried through till this past month, where there's been a slight dip because I think people are running out of money.
Was there a slight box price change in April?
Yeah, so I started, the boxes were 400. So we were talking about $400 a box in February, 420, whatever. And then there was one month, I don't remember the date, where if you watched Blowout, I don't know if I could say their name, but if you watched their website, you would see like literally every hour the box went $20. And people were posting another $20, another $20. And they really wanted to get it from 500 to 600 fast. But I think it stalled. And then I think a week later, it finally got to $5.99, which it stood out for a long time at $5.99. And just recently went down to $5.79 per box. And keep in mind, you can only buy 10 boxes ever if you're ever lucky. That's their max quantity, sometimes less.
Yeah, you got to wonder where the supply is at with Blowout as well. It seems like they have an endless supply up to this point. It's kind of frustrating from my standpoint that they fully control the pricing on that. So again, if they decide, 1 minute, and I've seen it the same way with the price fluctuations, 1 minute's $5.79 and like that, it's at $5.99. And it just seems like with them really being the only supplier right now that has that, they really have a stranglehold on that pricing. And it's extremely frustrating, especially for somebody probably looking to buy a box. So, I'll be interested to see where that goes into the future for sure.
On the box, on pricing and boxes, I think it is unique that Blowout has kind of seemingly unlimited supply of products, and who knows how much they still have available sitting in their warehouse to sell. At some point, the boxes will dry up. And I think pricing in the future, if you look at just Chrome pricing history from Chrome 1 to Chrome 2, when things dry up, things explode. So I think unopened box prices you'll see in the future can only go up. I mean, at some point the product will run out and blow out, and there will be none left, and then you'll see prices probably go up or stay pretty high. And I think on the parallels, there's a couple things. I think there's two different things to look at. If you're looking at the key cards, the Atom Bombs and Nasty Nicks, or a lot of the run-of-the-mill, OS2 cards, those have kind of stayed probably more reasonable in price. And like Ben said, people are running out of money. The economy's coming back. No more, stimulus checks. So I think as the industry as a whole, if you've seen pricing, there's been a lot of concern from high-end collectors in the baseball card world. There's been a slight dip the last couple months in pricing.
There had to be something that was going to give, because we literally have seen an incline like this since, I was almost going to say since the pandemic. And so, yeah, as people are starting now to be able to spend their money somewhere else, we're going to see a little bit of this. I'm just hoping that for all the people that have sunk in a ton of money into these things, that they do hold their value. But time will tell.
Yeah, exactly. I think you're right. Time's going to tell. This is unprecedented. The rise we've seen in all collectibles and really GPK. Will there be a dip? How much of a dip? Will there be a recovery? How much of a recovery? It's kind of unprecedented stuff. It'll be very interesting to see how it pans out.
Jeff, with the popularity, obviously, of Sapphire, do you see Topps down the road doing a Series 3 and 4 combination, much like they did with the first and second series?
I would think so. There's no reason why they wouldn't. Sapphire's been a popular, internet-based brand for them in all lines of their business. The problem with Topps right now is printing cards, and there's such a huge demand for collectibles and cards included. They're having a hard time with getting third parties to meet that demand. You've seen them delay sets, and they've kind of even been very vague with release dates on the things they've announced for GPK, like Chrome 4 and the next retail set, 2021 Series 2. The release dates are all kind of, December-ish, hopefully we'll see what happens. So, but just the talk in the industry is just, they're having a hard time getting vendors to meet the demand.
If I can switch back to Benjamin, could you give us I know you had more than one of those like little tasty bits that you were able to pull from all your information. Could you give us another one?
Yeah, actually, we've got another great one. People were looking for that teal Nasty Nick, and they weren't finding it for the longest time. It turns out there are 22 cards that have never shown up in teal. Now, mind you, every green has come out, every orange but one card, 65A, has come out. Why are there missing 22 teals when they're so common? And I don't know the answer to that, but we have actually talked to people outside of the Facebook world that have opened a lot of boxes, and they haven't seen the 22 teals, and we haven't seen it on eBay. We haven't seen it on PSA. It's nowhere. So we've never seen those 22 teals.
Suspicious. And what else do you have for us, Ben?
Yeah, there's another good one. During a recent break, somebody pulled a gold Nasty Nick 1 of 15. And I happened to be chatting with the person who owns another gold Nasty Nick 1 of 15. And it was alarming. There were videos going back and forth to make sure this is true. So there are 2, 1 of 15, that's the number on the card, gold Nasty Nicks. There are also 2, 1 of 10 purple Nasty Nicks. I don't know about reds, oranges, or the other ones. I don't know why this happened, and they're confirmed to be real, or how it happened. But that is where we are.
That makes me uncomfortable because of how expensive those cards are. So just the only thing is, I don't want to all of a sudden find out that there's 60 purples out there, right?
From my perspective, those kind of 2 tidbits are kind of the most concerning of the data that they've collected. With the teals, Topps holds back a certain percent of cards for both their no purchase necessary program, as well as damage replacements or missing hit replacements. Back years ago, I had heard the number floated around. It could be as much as 5% of the print run. And yes, that means 1 of 1 cards, superfractors, pods. They will hold back, a certain number of all types of cards, because damage happens. People open a pack and something gets crimped wrong or creased or something, and there's a chance it's a 1 of 1 that's damaged. So Topps could have a 1 of 1 to use as a replacement. I know that upsets collectors, but Topps does that, so they can try to fulfill their support of the product. But saying that, there's no way 22 teals have none show up. That's way too much for Topps to hold back. So you can't say they just decided, oh, we're going to hold back everything from these for replacements. That's that's a lot. So that's a huge mystery on where are all the teals at, right? On the multiple nicks being 1 of X cards, that's also very interesting. That's a lot more rare. I've seen stuff like that in the industry in the past, but that's really rare. Topps has usually been pretty good about the numbered cards and not seeing multiple show up. So it would be interesting to ask Topps these questions. However, they don't like talking about these things. So for now, it's just left everyone to speculate, kind of.
What is the most common base card that's pulled out of your data?
A Brainy Janie, 502 out of 1,600 boxes. So that's got to dip eventually. You can't keep that rate the whole way through. The least amount of card is 205. So there's 300 between that. And that's Greaser Greg, number 62A. So it's a big chunk. And really where the numbers get alarming is Potty Scotty, there's 435 of those. But Cyclops is where the dip happens. There's 262. So that's a huge gap. That's like 213. So you can see that's why we talk about doubling, because it really is. And as we've seen it grow, we've been tracking this for some time. It's about double that gap.
What's interesting to me is that if you just take Jeff's calculation of around 16,000 boxes, I think Jeff was the one who kind of extrapolated that from the data on the box. You get just under 3,000 possible sets, assuming that the card distribution is even. I wonder what that number is now with your data, and I don't expect you to have that right now.
So I would say 205, the lowest number, is the most possible sets we have from the 10% we broke, right? So 2,050 sets if we keep this rate. But again, nobody could do this rate because I guess it's possible this rate could happen and then they double print it. I just don't expect that. Also, you have all these people that participate in breaks that have stacks of the same cards. So people are not going to get those cards.
I think, Ben, the one thing I'm interested in is for the 2 big hitters, the Nasty Nick, obviously, and the Atom Bomb. Where are we at for numbers on those for the base?
Those are actually double characters. So those are in the grouping of, I don't have those exact. Well, Nasty Nick, there's 475 of those. And Atom Bomb, actually, I do have that, 466. So believe it or not, all 4 of the top 4 characters are in the doubling group of 34.
I've got a huge question for both of you. Where's the Atom Papa?
Who knows? I'm going to say it's still in a pack somewhere.
I think it's going to be in the end of the batches that open. So later in time. I don't think it's been found yet. That's my guess.
Hey, Ben, I want to give you a quick minute, too, to plug the data Excel sheet that you've done. And if you can let everybody know where they can find that and go to check it out.
So the break sheet is hits.spkcards.com. We made a domain for another breaker and just used it for stuff. He's not affiliated at all with the data. It's just a domain we had. We also have fartblasters.com. We might move to that. It's easier to remember, so we'll see. But there's also allhits.spkcards.com that actually takes the data from eBay. It takes it from PSA. It takes it from there's a hit registry that takes all that data together. So you can see there are 63 found pod parashas, and that's a neat thing to see right there.
That was amazing. Thank you for letting us pick your brains. Thank you for letting us pick your spreadsheets. That was super informative, and I really appreciate you guys coming on the show.
You guys were fantastic. Can't thank you enough. And, we want to have you on the show as much as we possibly can, especially with Sapphire, still being the apple of everybody's eye. So, for you guys to come in here and talk about that, Jeff, your expertise, and obviously, Ben, you putting together that data, it's just mind-blowing to me. Again, just can't thank you guys enough for taking some time out and, kind of helping the rest of the community get informed on what's going on.
No, I appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.
Yep, no problem. Anytime, guys.